Hey everybody. Two subjects to talk about real quick. Happy Saturday. That's the time that this is being recorded. Okay, this stupid O'Keefe Media Group. It's nothing but a propaganda rhetoric TV. But they did one. They did make one. You're all being invaded story that focused on a couple of things that were actually factual. Okay, in Tucson, Arizona, Pima County, a Ramada Hotel, Casa Alidas immigrant compound, operated by the Catholic Community Services of Tucson, which collects funds for a group called Las Palmas. Okay, now according to O'Keefe Media Group, OMG, the migrants are being treated poorly. This is also to base. This is also the base to where migrants are being transported to various parts of the country. Okay, so it's not even secret anymore. Immigrants are claiming migrants are being allowed into enter, even with obvious gang tattoos. Now that's going to be important for the next segment. CCS and the Las Palmas. Las Palmas, for the record, is a nursing home contract company in charge of cleaning, sanitation, food and services, who don't do their services or job responsibilities, and yet are still getting paid no matter what. Okay, there are other subcontractors doing the same thing. They're all a bunch of little minor groups, and they're taking checks from the government and just simply not doing their jobs. Okay, these are reports of abuses being done by we, the U.S. Okay, we, the U.S. are not filling in our contractual duties to taking care of these migrants. All right, they need to be taken care of, or they start being, doing dangerous things and being dangerous people themselves, which leads me to the next segment. Gangs are forming in New York City and on Indian reservations. Ironically enough, this Nick Shirley guy, Shirley, I'm investigating the New York migrant crisis. Gangs have arrived. Okay. There are people that are coming up saying, yeah, there's these people that are covered in gang tattoos from head to toe. They're covered up all the way to their faces. You can see them clear as day. They're all gangs and blah, blah, blah. And the this and that. Now, in migrant reservations, okay, there's talk of cartels that have infiltrated reservations. They're committing a lot of domestic violence, some child rapes, and attacks on people and all this good stuff. And they're just helpless and they don't know what to do. And it's a cause for concern. Now, here's the alarming part of this. Rhetoric media and propaganda media are interviewing testimonials of people on reservations who are saying, who are not really saying it, but they're agreeing to that this is the Biden open border policy problem. And that's alarming because it doesn't touch base to what's actually going on. Much less does it form a resolution. Okay. Now that I've said that, I've also got to shake my finger and scold these people. Okay? Gangs are nothing new to New York. In fact, it's where the Bloods, the Latin Kings, Italian Mafia, and many other various other gangs originated from. Okay? In New York. To think all of a sudden they don't know how to handle that is pretty stupid. Okay? Oh, they don't know. Oh, what are these Latino people doing, forming gangs? How do we stop this? This is Biden's fault. Okay. Again, long before Biden was even in office, long before he was even born. Gangs in New York is nothing new. And to see a rash of it or overwhelming and all this other crap, that's also stupid. Because you could have had them background checked. You could have had them saying you could see tattoos on their face. So you could see, obviously, who the gang member is. You know? You could have quarantined them and put them into background checks to see what they, whether or not they're here causing trouble. And don't get me wrong, Texas could have done the background checks too, you know. But for some reason, everybody's agreeing what Texas politicians, like my worthless Governor Greg Abbott, is saying, that it's because of Biden's open border policy. Biden didn't tell Abbott to not do background checks, okay? Biden actually sent Mayorkas down here to have facilitating holding areas in order for background checks and criminal checks to be done. And they were all sent back up to Congress, up to D.C. Abbott sent them away. So, to think all of a sudden nobody knows how to handle gangs, especially all the way up in New York, is just downright stupid. It sounds really bad in what I'm saying, but trust me, you deserve this. You deserve me shaking my finger at you. You deserve me giving you the shame on you. Shame on you. You deserve it. You deserve it, especially after all this time. All of a sudden, it's a problem you don't know how to handle. Really? Cartels have infiltrated the reservations. Okay, now, technically, this has been a complaint that's been going as far back as from what I have noticed, as far back as Y2K, the year 2000. Okay? As near as I could tell, they might have moved in before the second millennia. I'm not really sure. But I did start taking notice as far back as the year 2000. Tribal people have always talked about being the brave. And when it comes to cartel power, you know, nobody blames people when cartel activity is ratted out. Okay? Nobody would blame the tribal people for pushing out cartels. They talk a lot of shit that they're, you know, that they're so powerful and tough because they never had they never had the white man blood intermingle with theirs, and that they're tough, and it's because they're brave and they're tough and all this good stuff. So why is the U.S. tribes crying and complaining when they should be fighting and defending? You know, they talk a lot of shit. You know, they always have. You know, even before it became popular in this day and age, before it became easier to see due to mainstream media, before the internet, when I was a kid, you know, I was always looked at as, you know, the dirty Mexican, even in front of Native Americans. I mean, and I'm not, it's, you know, I'm not to let it haunt my past, you know, haunt me forever and all, but I do remember it. I was very young, but I never forgot it. To me, and it was also as discriminative as the Mexican nationals that told me I wasn't a real Mexican because I was born here in the States. You know, again, I was young, but I never forgot that. I never really forgot that. And I hear a lot of crap back to the reservations. You know, I hear a lot of crap about natives talking about how proud they are, how tough they are. And, you know, and even, you know, can a Mexican beat you? Nah, Mexicans are dirty. Mexicans are filthy. I even remember a scenario that was done off of a television show called, and please forgive me, I have no idea as to whether or not I have the rights to actually expose them on this. It was called Human Weapon, right? Human Weapon? Or Human, or Deadliest Weapon? Or Deadliest Human? I don't really remember. I don't really remember. But they had ancient or you know, old historical people, warriors, to fight each other in a simulation. And one of them was Pancho Villa. and he was taking on Crazy Horse, I think. And in a list of simulations, even though they were about a decade apart in time, they all had primitive and sophisticated weapons that they could use to throw in order to mate each other fairly in a scenario, a simulation of fights. And it turns out I'm not going to say who won. I am, however, going to say that on the media chat sites, the website chat lines, everybody flipped their shit. Everybody lost their shit. The Mexicans can't do anything brave, tough, or whatever than any Native American. Native Americans will always kick their asses. Native Americans will kick their ass. They always kick that. They always do. We still do. Blah, 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 blah. And then the rantings just went on and on. Post after post, I was scrolling because at the time I had a laptop. I didn't have a smartphone at the time. Not to give away my age. But just post after post going up my screen, of everybody ranting and all this stuff. So I come back to the question nowadays where cartels have infiltrated the reservations, according to all of them. I come back to that same question. Why are these U.S. tribes crying and complaining when they should be fighting and defending, when they should be doing exactly what they say they've always done, and what they always will do to Mexicans? Okay? If they really are cartels, nobody's going to blame you for ratting them out. Nobody's going to blame you for fighting them. Nobody's going to blame you for killing a cartel. Not even us Mexicans. That's like saying, I don't know, that's like saying some white guy should be ashamed of himself for shooting a Nazi that wants to butt fuck him, or his kid, that wants to put a price tag on his kid's butt, just simply because he hasn't sworn an allegiance to the Fuhrer. Okay? Nobody's going to blame that white guy. Nobody's going to blame that white guy for killing a Nazi. No Mexican's going to blame a Native American for killing a cartel member. We have to dodge these people all the time. Even here in Texas, where the law is on our side. But nevertheless, it could be one of our cousins. Sorry, I had to say it. Nevertheless, you just shy away from people, and when they come and try to F you up, you mess them up instead. That's the way it is down here in San Antonio. I imagine that's the way it is in Texas in general, and I honestly believe that's the way it should be in the rest of America and throughout the world, even on reservations. From blades to objects, you have something you can use to defend and fight to protect yourself from somebody that wants to enslave you with his drugs, or pimp you, or pimp your children. Guns, technically you can get them by way of trade or payment plan, trade at some market, or a payment plan with some market, some store, a department store. Technically you can get your guns. I understand reservations are a little bit more on the poorer side. I get that. But, San Antonio, Texas being the 7th or 8th largest city, we've got plenty of poor people down here too. They use the payment plan. They get their rifles at Walmart. So what's stopping you guys? And if this seems very mean, sorry, but I have to scold you. I have to scold you. I have to give you the shame. I have to give that to you. You've earned it. You've earned it. And the same goes for New York. You've earned it. You seriously turned stupid? I don't know why just yet, but in my world where everything goes by, well, the majority of everything in life goes by, it's all about the money, belief is the tool. I can speculate that the sole reason for all of this crying and complaining is to get more government checks for fundings for I don't know, barriers and holding facilities and more cops and maybe some riot gear. I really don't know. I really don't know. And then the rest, of course, the politicians just pocket. Okay, like they always do. They pocket whatever change is left. You know. That's usually what the politicians and the government are doing whenever they do this crying and complaining stuff. You know, it wasn't just Indians that are saying, it wasn't just Native Americans that were saying cartels have come over. Their representatives and their chiefs are coming to reporters and journalists and making these claims. It isn't just people; it's residents in the area in New York, all the way up to politicians, law enforcement and politicians who are making these claims, you know, and it isn't just hearsay. It's through mainstream media where, you know, for the most part, they're getting it. Everything except, I still stand by everything except for that invasion crap, the migrant invasion, which is just total bull crap. You know, showing asylum seekers surrendering to law enforcement is not an invasion, you know. Putting them in housing in tent cities, that's not free housing. That's not housing giveaway. That's not giving them homes and apartments and all this other crap, like the way they're saying condominiums and all this other garbage. You know, you still, unfortunately, you still have to use your better sense of judgment. But there are certain things that are being exposed and revealed. And you just gotta not fall for the propaganda. You gotta make sure you're not following anybody that's saying nothing but rhetoric that feeds into hate, which leads to, you know, which just feeds more into propaganda. You know, I'm sorry for verbally spitting on these people, but we're talking about two types of people in a city and a country who live in a reputation of being tough and strong, you know. Now the crying and complaining, and worst of all, feeding the hype of hate rhetoric. You know, for example, it's Biden or whatever politician that's in charge. It's the immigrants today. You know, despite the fact that gangs have always been in the country, or reservations in our cities. You know, and gangs have always been complaining about for a quarter of a century now. Gangs have always been complained about for a quarter of a century now, okay? Since the year 2000. All in all, this leads to the final statement. You need to tough up. You need to buck up and toughen up. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. You need to tough up. You need to buck up and tough up. That's what I meant to say. Buck up and toughen up. Because this crying and complaining that you're doing, you know, it's attracting people of hate, people that have their anger fed. It's attracting the paranoia, and it's attracting somebody like me, common sense on common ground, that says, look, you've had gangs since forever. And the other people, you've been talking tough since forever. Live up to your word. All right? Own up to your words. Live up to your reputation. Live up to your experience. Own up to your words. All of you. Both of you. In the country and in the cities and in the reservations. You need to own up to what you say. This crying and complaining is bullcrap. How? I don't know. I can speculate that it's all for political money, political contributions. It's all for suing and getting money for it. It's all about receiving, aid and funding and checks and all this good stuff. You know, it's all for a bill to be passed so you can legally obtain all that money and the fundings. That's speculation on my end, because in order to make sense of everything, I have to look at it by that one quote. It's all about the money. Belief is the tool. You're making people believe that there's a crisis. You get a check. So New York and reservations in Chicago and any place else that's doing all this crying and complaining, handle your business. Buck up and toughen up. Because this crying and complaining, the money's only going to go so far, and it's only going to be coming less and less. Budget cuts and all this stuff is going to be happening left and right. You know this. Buck up and toughen up. Plain and simple. And that's it. That's all I got to say for today. I've been holding that in all week because I've been too busy working. I got a new job. I got another delivery job, and it's turning out to be a little bit more profitable than, not so much profitable, but keeping me more busy. And for the record, I'm signing up for another delivery app. I'm running on 2 right now. I'm going to be doing a 3rd, which means I'm going to be a lot more busier. I might not be making as many posts out here, which means, you don't have to hear a lot of yapping from me. But, don't say but, however, you can expect the next time I come up, it's going to be a little bit of a curveball just like this, because not everybody's looking at this. Everybody's looking at the migrants. Everybody's looking at Islam. Everybody's looking at, or Israel. Everybody's looking at Ukraine still, and these little side events and occurrences pop up into my mind, and they catch my eye, and I try to make sense of it all amongst the major things that's going on right now. So this is what's going on, and I think it serves a better purpose, seeing as how everybody else is doing the normal, that when something comes left field, I should say, when a curveball is thrown left field, oh my God, when a curveball is sent left field, it only makes sense to start listening to me again, because I'm the one that's talking with common sense on common ground, and showing you that step back and look kind of aspect to it all. It's just it's just that way. It makes sense. Speaking of Israel, I think it's good that we still support Israel, but I think it's better that we support Israel while scolding Israel and whenever they misbehave and all that. We threaten to take the guns back or whatever, or just stop funding. Israel has got to play it straight. They got to stop. And don't get me wrong, it's not all of them, but it's some riflemen here, some tankers over there, some bomb experts here, some vigilantes there, and you mix up, and it looks like the entire country is just this one wolf in sheep's clothing kind of country in the middle of a war, which is just dumb. You got to take a step back and look at what's going on. Okay. And we got to support the president when he says stuff like that. We'll support you, but we're stopping these fundings. We'll give you your fundings back for being a good behavior, but those guys over there that use the 50 cals and all this stuff, we're no longer providing ground support. We'll only hit areas with drones, and we'll be in charge of them. Okay. See, that makes common sense. Okay, you guys are behaving. Okay, no more drones. We got you your ground support, and all this good stuff. But we see somebody over here poisoning the water. So, now more than ever, we're going to protect the Gazans in their refuge, and we're going to feed them. That's what you get. You know, I see that. I see us doing that and make it punishing Israel and not letting them have their glorious victory, despite the fact that a lot of people have to turn their heads and look the other way and not notice this or not pay. You're like, oh, completely oblivious to what was going on over there and all this other crap. No, it's not going to cut anymore. No. Okay, but that's an entirely different story. I could go on another half hour. I'm going to stop. And, but don't be surprised if you see me making another post like that, just fixated on good form, bad form of war, war economics? No, war ethics. War ethics. I don't really know you know what I'm saying. I just don't remember the words right now. But yeah, that's the long and the short of it. Just a little bit about the Middle East at the end of it all. So y'all take care. Y'all take it easy. This is Chris with Chris's Comments, signing out.